About 6 months ago, we picked up this BMW E92 M3 competition. And if you saw the video at the time, you'll know we loved it right away. But we always had the aim of making a few subtle changes to improve its weak spots and turn it into the perfect weapon for fast road driving and occasional track use as well. First though, we took the standard car to Blyton Park to get a feel for what needed doing. So while it's standard, here we are at Blyton Park to see how it does. First thing, straight away, the brakes definitely need doing. They have some stopping power, but they don't feel particularly nice. They're a little bit juddery. Now on the way out of here, because all the power's so high up, traction is actually really good. On the way down the gears though, that's where it could probably do with the GTS gearbox upgrade. You can see there's just that little bit of a delay between pulling the paddle and the shift happening. Pretty impressive, to be honest. There is a little bit of roll. It is on standard competition suspension. The steering, the front end does turn in really well. The steering's a nice weight. I honestly don't think it would take much to turn this into a really quick track car. Next, we headed to Perron Automotive to get the car in the dyno and see where it was out of the box. So to start off, the car's strapped into the dyno to get a baseline figure, see how many horse it's lost over the years and to see basically if we're good to go with the ECU tune. So let's see how it does. Right, so that is the baseline dyno run done. Got the figures up here. It made 371.9 horsepower at the wheels, translates down there to 397.43 at the crank, all the way over 8,000 RPM. Now BMW claimed 414 horsepower, but the guys at Perron reliably informed me that actually that is pretty strong for one of these cars, so nothing we need to fix on it, so we can crack on with tuning it. After a quick health check, the guys at Perron started by giving the M3 a stage 2 engine tune. This raises the rev limiter from 8,300 RPM to 8,600, giving us a solid power gain. They also increased the ignition timing slightly, whilst leaving the knock control as its factory setting to keep the engine running reliably and safely. The gearbox was given a new personality thanks to an M3 GTS tune, which increases our drivability, gives us considerably faster shifts, and finally the speed limiter is lifted. Maybe we can put that to use in Germany sometime. Next on the list were the much needed brakes. We went with the complete kit from K-Sport thanks to Apex Performance. It comprised of a big brake kit, racing pads front and rear, as well as new hoses and fluids. A quick trip to John Holland allowed the 380mm discs and 8-pot K-Sport calipers to be installed up front, and fresh Pagid pads all round, seriously increasing the efficiency of the brakes. We knew right from the word go that we needed to sort the seats, so we spent a morning at GSM Performance to go through our options. Ever since we got the M3, one of our main priorities was to change the seats. I feel like you sit quite high in the originals, and tracking it around Blyton Park confirmed they're not really up to the job. So here we are at GSM Performance in Nottingham, where they have all kinds of seats to sit on and try out. So let's go find owner and SCD member Gareth to talk us through some of the options. So E92 M3s, if you were replacing the standard seats with something a bit more that you could do road and track, sit a bit lower, can you show us some of the options?
Yeah, so essentially the E92 is pretty good because the internal cockpit space means you can have pretty much any seat. It's got a lot of space. And when it comes to road and track, there's a lot of options. I mean, we've got over 100 seats depending on what you're after. Then it's going to come down to the size of the seat, the size of your frame, your shoulders, your hips, and what you want from it. So when it comes to support mechanisms, you've got a lot of choices. Sort of, there's going to be some narrow ones if you want to be really snug in for your track day. Some flatter shoulders or narrower shoulders depending on how much support you want there. And you can kind of get the right seat just for exactly what you want, really. If you were going to start to head towards track and motorsport orientation, then we're going to go more towards a fixed back seat. So we've got the ones from Cobra, which are a UK brand. We've got Corbu, the ever popular Recaro, and then quite a lot of the Italians like Sparco, Sarbelt and OMP. But it's not so much about the brand, it's just about getting that fit right, really. So yeah, that's what we need to work on.
For me, these Corbus over here are the sort of thing we're looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense, because essentially, depending on your frame, you'll find that they've got really nice shoulder supports. You sit quite deep into a Corbu seat, and they've just designed them really well. You get the nice grip material on the side, which is always nice. It's hard wearing as well when you're climbing in and out all the time. And then the two main models that they use are the Sprint and the Pro Series. Pro Series has got the higher side supports and the Sprint rolls off. So that's easier to get in and out of if you've got a lot of different drivers jumping in and out. And the Pro Series is better if you're endurance racing or you just want that extra level of support, really. So when you go around that corner, the core body is going to be held in place. And if you link it to a harness, that's going to take the swing out the shoulders as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good seat, and that's going to do the job nicely. Because it's slightly wider than their other model, which is the standard Sprint, you're going to find you can have a better variety of drivers using the seat as well.
All right, thank you, Gareth. I think we might have found the ones.
Yeah, happy to be of help. Anytime you've got a project and you need to sit in a seat, you know where we are. We've got 125 here, so we're going to always find the right one for you. Thank you very much.
So that ended up being quite easy in the end. The ones we're going to go for are the Corbu Sprints. The Pros are a little bit tight, maybe a little bit hard to get out of, and Riyadh didn't actually fit in them. Those, they're not too extreme, but they really hold you in well, and I think they'll really help you feel more part of the car, sat down in it as well. So the next time you see it, it'll have those. With performance, braking and ultra-hugging seats sorted, we headed to BMW specialist MMR Performance at Bruntingthorpe Proving Ground to fine-tune the chassis. But before we did that, we needed to get rid of the old tyres, in the proper way. After the old rubber was suitably destroyed, we headed to the workshop to fit the new lowering springs and a fresh set of Michelin Pilot Supersport tyres. The new suspension we've installed is a Pro kit from iBack, lowering the front by 20mm and the rear by 15mm. Once the springs were in, the newly lowered M3 was given a professional alignment thanks to our partners at Suspension Secrets.
So what we've done today is we have installed some lowering springs on this M3, and then we've installed some new tyres all around as well, some new Michelins, give it a bit more grip, lower centre of gravity and make it handle a little bit better. Now what we're doing is we're just going to finish it off with a full track geometry setup, get it handling really nice in circuit. First of all, we're measuring all the camber on the front and rear wheels, and then we're going to adjust that. So the front, we're aiming for about -2 degrees. It's maximum that you can achieve with these without offset bushes. And then the rear, we're going to get that back to about -1.5, so it loads up nice, but because of the driven wheels, you do need a little bit less camber. And then we're going to sort the toe out afterwards on the rear and the front axle. When you lower a car, it will affect the camber on the toe, so it'll always need doing regardless, but we're going to do it a bit more extreme for a fast road setup.
Finally, with the addition of a set of MMR paddle shifters, The work on the M3 was done. Now all the changes have been done, we're back on one of our favourite roads, so let's see how it does. So the first thing is the seats. The standard seats, I said from the start, it felt like you were sat way too high. And even though they had adjustable bolsters, they didn't really hold you in that tight when you were cornering. These, they're nowhere near as practical, obviously, you can't fold them down. They're not as easy to get in and out, but the difference on a road like this is amazing. They really do hold you in. There's a lot of shoulder support. So the times we take it on track, I think the seats will really pay off. But importantly, you sit quite a bit lower now. You sit where you feel like you should sit in a car like an M3. And you can just feel so much more of what's going on with the car underneath you. Now, the second thing that needed doing the most was the brakes. They were pretty weak. They juddered a little bit. And they just really didn't give you a lot of confidence scrubbing off the speed. But the K-Sport big brake kit, the pedal is so much more reassuring. There's bite there at the top, but it's not like some modern cars where they're just snatchy at the top and then that's it. You can modulate them as well, and the braking power is so much better. It's exactly what you'd want from a car like this for if you're driving quickly on the road, but they'll hold up on the track as well. I think if I could have made one change to this car alone, it would have been the brakes, so they're a really welcome change. Now when it comes to straight line performance, there's not a lot you can do with this engine without going down the route of forced induction. But when we took it to Peron Automotive, they did a few little bits like the GTS software update on the gearbox. And whilst it's not night and day, it does make the shifts that little bit snappier. But one thing you really notice when you rev it out, revs forever. They've increased the red line to 8,600 RPM, so you can just hold the gears even longer. Another thing, the throttle mapping. So in the power setting as standard, it was a little bit too sensitive, if anything. It could be quite jerky at low speeds, hard to modulate on the way out of corners. So they've given us a tad more power with a map, but more importantly, they've just made the throttle that much more manageable. So you can just drive it smoother. And then handling. For me, the car handled pretty well as standard, but it was quite on its toes. And for leading drives, things like that, you need confidence in a car. So when we took it to MMR Performance, they fitted some lowering springs to it, and Suspension Secrets worked their magic on the alignment. So you can definitely tell it is more firmly sprung, and it works with EDC dampers as well, so you can still slacken it off a bit if you like. The alignment has specifically been done for corners like that where it's under load to give more stability, and it doesn't move around quite so much in a way that you don't want it to. So again, just like the brakes, you've got more confidence in pushing it. We've also got a fresh set of Michelin Pilot Super Sport tyres, so that's helping the confidence as well. And just to finish it off, one of the things you interact with most on this car is the paddles. So we've got some of MMR Performance's own paddles. They're a little bigger, so no matter where your hands are on the wheel, you can get them easier. They just feel really nice. So, 6 months of ownership and a selection of small tweaks which add up to much more rounded driving experience and the kind of performance you'd expect of a car of today, never mind 10 years ago. The one thing it could still do with is more noise, so you might not have seen the last of the M3 mods just yet. If there's anything else you do to our M3, let us know in the comments below. To keep up to date with the M3 journey and all of our supercar related content, please remember to subscribe and help us on the way to 150,000 subscribers.